Hello there. Swing with King. We just wanted to talk about my past and how I got to this point. We'll go back to 2001, 2008. I want to tell you why I stopped relying on my employer in retirement plans and started building my own structure and the importance of doing so. Basically, I had a 401k, through my employer in 1997 it started, and then 2001 we had a crash, and then 2008 we had, financial meltdown with the real estate bubble and whatnot. So what ended up happening to me is in 2001 when the crash happened and the we lost about 30%. The market went down 30%. I learned how to increase my 401k distribution. So instead of 3%, I ended up changing it to 8% and then 16% later on after I talked to an accountant friend that showed me that you don't have to settle for what the house gives you. They like to give you a standard plan, and that gives minimum returns and gives a kickback to HR, whoever sets it up. If you have a retirement or a financial department, they might get a kickback depending on how it works, because usually there's a lot of red tape and getting things set up. At my employer, it took a couple weeks. I had to get a special key code from the HR to get things set up. So just want to let you know the hurdles I had to deal with, because I know a lot of people still deal with the same thing 2026. So I thought I'd just share my story with you. So 2001, the crash happened. I was able to add more money and take advantage at discount rates. And then my accountant friend, I ran into him about 2004 when the market started picking back up, and returns 30-40% started being normal if you can get into those higher aggressive funds. Like I said, that weren't standard at all. You had to get a special key code and access the database of various funds that you could have. So that's step one. Talk to someone and see what your whole portfolio is and get knowledgeable about different funds, because it does make a difference. I literally doubled my 401k after talking to my friend in 2004, and then doubling it again the year after. Just replication, just following the structure. And pretty much once I found out the funds and how he was able to double his money, then I ended up just following suit and doubling my own. And I was able to tell other employees too that wanted to take control of their situation as well. So that's basically what happened in 2008. Then we had the same type of situation, except real estate was involved, and it was a terrible crash, and people were getting fired every week and whatnot. It was survival island. And then what happened to everybody that remained with the company is there was a friend of the controller, and he came in and entirely changed plans. We had a great plan through John Hancock, and then I wasn't able to do the same things that I did back in 2001, which was double down on lower rates and get out, on the other side in a better position, wealthier position. So the whole thing with this video is to take control. If I could talk to a previous self, I would have, instead of doubling down with my employer, I would have had a Roth IRA or a separate IRA and did my investing through them. And then that way, my employer couldn't touch the wealth that I was creating anyways. Because when the 2008 switch happened, I literally couldn't do anything. I had to take the funds and go through a whole different plan. And there was no vote or anything like that. And what he did was legal by the book. I definitely think there should be talk about things like that, because when it happened to me, it happened to my mom too. And she worked at a hospital. No, one of the largest hospitals in Wisconsin was Aurora. So basically, he had a shark that went around, and he sold people from, just telling people stocks were bad investment, they're not going to rebound, and things like that, just to satisfy his own wallet. So basically, he probably going to getting a big kickback, and he talked my mom out of the rebound and just selling short, which you never want to do. Selling out at a low rate and going into bonds. So something that the shark suggested and whatnot. And so it's a game of greed a lot of times, and you just have to know what you're doing out there, because the pensions are running slim and have been since 1970s. So it's less and less common, and more common is to have a defined contribution plan, the 401k. And 401k is gold mine. It's nothing to talk down about. It's just, you just got to be careful of things like the situation that happened to me. When there's downfall, people can make a lot of money in that circumstance, and you just have to safeguard that situation and take it upon yourself, get your own IRA, and really fund that as much as you can, and do the match for sure, because that's just free money. But just have that in the back of your mind that that can happen, that they could switch plans at a drop of a hat. They can know somebody inside and profit handsomely on you. So it's unfortunate, but that's what happened to me. Like I said, that's what happened to my mom. And I know that happens a lot, and probably happen again in the pandemic. Took the lure of, you got to work from home and you're away from things, and sneak it in, because if you're like me, before I talked to my friend, it was just a quarterly statement I got, and it instantly went into the garbage can. I had no feeling or no um, tie down with it. It was just a number that they printed off, and I was like, I didn't care, because nothing was explained to me. It was my friend that was assistant to a controller that came down and spent time with me and just showed me why you should care. And then I seen everything in a different light, because when he showed me 40% returns in the same plan at the same company, that's when I started to take notice that this is out there for you, and it's your hard work. And if something happens, you get laid off, or family situation, you need to move or what have you, it's your wealth. You want to control your wealth. So whatever you can do while you're working, to look into it. And I'm here for you guys, so you can comment. And I know a lot about investing, just learning. And my buddy led me to one path, and then I took it upon myself to keep learning, keep educating myself, and find out what else was out there. And that's what I did. And I'm just kind of passing it on and trying to gain more knowledge. I'm never going to call myself an expert. I make mistakes a lot, and I learn through those mistakes. And while I do make mistakes, I still profit every year. Last couple of years was 14% return, and I learned a lot. In the last couple of years, because now the transition with the pandemic allowed me to do this full time. So now I'm just out here making a full time living on my stocks and what I do in the market. And I'm the type of investor that does a lot of index funds, and I have a Vanguard health fund, and I have the Dow Jones Industrial Average Index Fund, which I highly recommend. Going back a few years, I would even tell myself for a couple of years, do more with the index fund. You never sell it. You just have that. You add more to it. It goes down. There's a 25% variance every year. You just add more to it. That's essentially what you can earn at 25% a year, and that does add up. The rule of 72. Just divide that by your yearly intake. So basically, 25 divided by 72 every 3 years, you're doubling your money, and you create your own wealth. And they say the house always wins. Well, then join the house, right? And that's what I learned in the last couple of years. Don't do always aggressive stuff. I like to go long, and that's great. I'm young enough to do that. I have the foundation to do that. So basically, I can take long risk, calculated risk, and that's me as an investor. I like Taiwan Semiconductor. I like Micron. I like things like that make sense. A growing industry, free cash flow, growing free cash flow, growing earnings per share. That's mostly what I do. And then a small part of that is swing trading, which I like Cipher and Applied Digital. Those to me are wonderful companies, and the daily rate on that is 6 to 7%. And every time I invested in it, yeah, I mistime it. Stock goes down, but then I'm able to DCA my way out, and in a couple of days, I have won. So my strategy is using more of just those two companies, and seeing how that goes. But if my success is replicates from my data analysis in the last 100 days, I should be able to do that. If I could do this like every 100 days, I'll be in a totally different arena, having totally different conversations. And I hope to bring a lot of people that type of success, because it's very fun when you can just invest and enjoy your life and don't worry about what your employer does, what AI technology is going to kick you out of a job, and things like that. It's always been that type of world where technology is a threat. It's been since the 70s and whatnot. And I had incredible cartoons and things that came out, movies, Terminator, things like that, that always, hinted at what the world could be with AI technology, robotics, and things like this. So this is nothing new, and AI is new to us. I mean, it's been out for a while, but now it's getting more relevant. You hear about it all the time. You hear about people talking about how it can change jobs and kick a lot of jobs to the curb, etc. But there's always, wherever there's a bad, usually there's a trade-off. Usually there's some good of it. And the good now is you can have an assistant AI, and they can help you with investing and things like that. And I use AI somewhat. Like every day I talk to it and give it data that it can use and things like that. And it's not good at all. It's not like I can depend on it, but it does have a little insight. And as long as I know that ratio, that you're good 1 out of 10 times or what have you, I use it to my advantage. And later on, after I train it, or after the technology becomes better, then the assistant becomes better, and your trades will develop higher. But I don't rely on that. So, I do everything data oriented, and put a lot of time in charts, understanding research and market and risk and controls and things like that. So it's a vast world, and the world of finance is exciting and complex, but it doesn't have to be unreachable and unattainable. I'm looking at you, and you have the power to change your life if you understand this. And it's not that hard. I literally set up a Discord. It's $5 a month, and I intend to have it $5 a month until I have 100 members that are happy with me, and I'm doing great things for them. And that's the only reason I'd ever increase it. But it's not really about that anyways. For me, it's about like giving back. Like my buddy helped me, and just paying it forward. And I know this stuff ain't taught in schools or universities. Again, I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's right, but I'm just saying that's how it is. Anyways, I enjoyed this video and making it for you, and I hope a lot of people find it resonate with it and chime in, have comments and things like that, and join my community, and we can build a successful community together. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. Have a good day. Bye.